start the discussion with a very simple, straightforward question: what is life? Now, different people may have different answers for this question. Some people may say that life is growth, life is movement. Living organisms can eat food, digest food, burn food to produce energy. Living organisms can think, they can sense the changes in their environment, and they can change their environment. Non-living things cannot do any of this. Now, some people may have an entirely different answer to this question. They can say that life is the experiences that you gather, life is the memories that you make with your family, friend, loved ones, and life is what you learn, how you grow in life. So none of these answers are incorrect. But if you belong to the first category, this course is for you. You can go ahead, watch the videos and learn more about living organisms. If you belong to the second category, then you must definitely watch this video, because to be able to answer the higher questions in life, to be able to understand about life, you must first be able to live a rich and healthy life. To live a rich and healthy life, you must understand living organisms and their physiology better. So you should have a basic understanding of biology. A basic understanding of biology is must for you. So please go ahead, watch how we define life and what are the unique characters that make living organisms so different from non-living things.
What are defining criteria? How do we decide that this criteria will help us define life accurately? So criteria which are exclusively present in only the group which you are trying to define. Now we'll try to assess all criteria on two benchmarks. The first one is whether these criteria are present in all living organisms without exception. And the second, are these criteria absent in non-living things? Again, without exception. We know that all living organisms grow. But what is growth? For unicellular organisms, growth means increase in size of cells. For multicellular organisms, growth means increase in number of cells. Now, cell number will increase through cell division. Besides, there are differences in the growth patterns of plants and animals. Plants keep on growing throughout their life, and animals, growth stops after some time. But irrespective, all organisms grow, and growth means increase in mass or biomass of organisms. Here you can see a mountain grows. A non-living thing is growing. Now how is this different from the growth of living things? Living organisms grow from inside, while non-living things grow due to deposition of substances from outside. So, growth can be considered a defining criteria for life, and with it, the conditions need to be stated. Now, reproduction is defined as the production of similar progeny. In your previous class, you have studied about different types of reproduction shown by different groups of organisms. Do all living organisms reproduce? Have you heard of couples who undergo treatments for infertility? They are not able to reproduce. Then there are mules which are infertile, that is, incapable of reproduction because they are produced by crossing horses with donkeys, an interspecific cross. And then there are worker bees in the colonies of honeybees, which are sterile. So if we consider reproduction as defining criteria for life, then these cannot be considered as living organisms, which you know is wrong. So reproduction cannot be considered as a defining criteria for life. To understand the next criteria, let's just first understand that living organisms are made of chemicals, that is atoms and molecules or biomolecules. Now these biomolecules are continuously being used up and are made again. How are molecules made or changed into other molecules? By chemical reactions. And these chemical reactions that occur in the body of a living organisms are known as metabolic reactions. Inside a cell, thousands of such reactions are occurring simultaneously. Some of those that you have studied are respiration, protein synthesis, vitamin synthesis, hormone synthesis, and transport related changes, etc. Now you must remember that these are not single reactions but groups of many reactions. So metabolism can be defined as the sum total of chemical reactions occurring inside a living system. Now there's a term we use for inside the living system, that is in vivo. In contrast, those occurring outside living system or in non-living conditions are known as in vitro. So, can metabolic reactions be considered as defining feature of living organisms? Yes, because all living organisms show metabolism without exceptions. Some of these reactions can be simulated in vitro too, but these are individual reactions, not the sum total of reactions. And as you later study, it is not these single reactions that define life, it is interaction and coordination of these reactions that is a defining feature of life. Now, one last thing about metabolism that you need to remember. Metabolic reactions are of two types. Anabolic reactions or reactions where a biomolecule is being synthesized, and catabolic reactions or reactions where a biomolecule is being broken down. Now, can you think of some examples of both these types of reactions? You've studied that cell is the fundamental unit of life. So logically, cell is the defining feature of life. The only exception being viruses, which are alive only when they are inside the host cell. So they are said to be acellular. Most important ability of living organisms is the ability to sense or perceive changes in environment. These changes in environment are known as stimuli, and the way organism reacts to it is known as response. The stimuli can be physical, it can be chemical, or it can be biological. The ability to respond to these stimuli is known as consciousness. Now, human beings are a step ahead in the living system. We are not just conscious of our environment, we are also self-aware. We are aware of people watching us. We think about what others may think of us. We think about learning and future. So we are not just conscious to our environment, we are also self-conscious. In fact, in case of humans, there are certain other complications too. Supposing a person is in coma, he is on life support. That is, his vital organs such as heart and lungs are running on machines. Otherwise, he is brain dead. That is not self-conscious. So do we consider him dead or alive? Think over it. If there are so many complications associated with life, how do we define life? How can you define something which is so complicated and has so many exceptions? And then, how do you define biology, the study of life? to define life or living organisms, we must remember one very important thing. Life process and living organisms exist because of interactions. Interactions between biomolecules leads to functioning of cell organelles. Now, coordinated activity of cells organelles makes a cell possible, and cells together interact and work to make sure that a tissue can perform its function. This hierarchy continues from tissue to organs, to organ systems, and to a living organism, and then to its population and community, and finally to the ecosystem in which it lives along with other living organisms and the environment. So how do we define living organism? We define living organisms or life on the basis of its defining features and on the basis of these interactions. With this, we come to the end of our introductory session, but before we close, let's just think over the interaction aspect of life. We exist because of our interaction with our environment, both the living and non-living, and that is why it is very important to look after, to be considerate to the things around us, both living and non-living. It is beautiful to be alive, but what would life be without the beauty of the earth around us and the many living organisms in it? So in the next session, we'll study about biodiversity. I'm sure you're already beginning to understand the importance of biodiversity. Before we log out, some questions to check our understanding. Keep learning. Bye-bye.